Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Dungeon Party. Dungeon Party is brought to you by Forbidden Games. It's for 1 to 6 players, ages 6 and up, and games range anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes. In Dungeon Party, you and your fellow heroes have just sat down for what you thought would be a nice, quiet evening in the tavern. However, chaos ensues, and you are soon beckoned back to the dungeon. So Dungeon Party is a quick playing fantasy adventure dungeon crawl that uses coasters and quarters. What does that sound like to you? It sounds like the game of quarters. Well, it is, but it is a very much thematic version where you are trying to defeat the evil monsters within the dungeon and get the loot. And whoever has the most loot at the end of the game is going to win. So setup in this game is super fast and straightforward. Every room of the dungeon is going to have a corresponding monster and treasure. Now, all the rooms level from 1 to 5, and the monsters level from 1 to 5, matching the level of the room. Now, in the setup, there's going to be dungeon setup tiles that are going to have some thematic nature to them, and they're going to show you how to set up the dungeon. You're going to have like the Wizard's Tower or the Dungeon of Doom or maybe the Goblin's Cave, things like that. But in this prototype version, we don't have those, so we're using a basic dungeon setup here. So these are our dungeon tiles. Set up for a basic dungeon, like I said, which includes 3 level 1 rooms, 2 level 2s, and 2 level 3s. And the last monster in the bunch in that last level 3 room is a boss level creature. And along the way, you're hoping that you can gather enough treasure to make a difference, to give you more power and more damage to inflict on these creatures. So that's the basics of creating your dungeon deck. This stack is going to basically have a room, a monster, a treasure, and it's going to move that way levels 1 through 3 or 5, depending on what type of dungeon you've set up. And it's going to depend on the player count in the game as well. Now, you also, like any good dungeon crawl, everyone's going to get a character. And these characters have all kinds of special abilities and bonuses. Bonuses are nice because a lot of time they're going to apply to a specific type of monster based on that type of character you have. And the bonus is going to give you extra damage if, let's say, it's a large creature that you're attacking. Things like that. And these character cards are going to outline all your health stats. It's got a numbered value for your starting health. And you also show your base level damage located up here on the left. Now, there's also special abilities. There's 2 types, really. There's a starred ability, which allows you to use that ability once per dungeon. So you want to probably hold on to those until things are dire, or maybe for the boss level, things like that. And then you have a basic level special ability. In this case, we have a magic missile that does +2 damage. Now, when you're fighting a monster, you can choose to use that special ability, but you can only use it once per monster. Now, what we discovered in playing is the best way really to keep track of all your health stats and the monster's health stats is just to use dice to keep track of those values. Now, obviously, this is a game of quarters, but there's special coins that are going to be part of Dungeon Party that relate to the different types of characters and things. But in our demo, our prototype, we're using another Forbidden Game coins from Pirates. So you'll be seeing these throughout the video. But really, quarters or coins is really how you do everything in this game. So gameplay is super straightforward. This is where the quarters come into play. So you're going to take the 3 tiles from the top of the dungeon stack. You're going to lay them out face down. First, flipping over the room. Now, let's talk about rooms real quick. Rooms can have all kinds of special abilities or things they force you to do. There could be even traps or curses that happen. In the case of traps and curses, another instance where you're going to have to toss coins in order to save yourselves. But some of the rooms tell you to do special things, like you might have to stand on one leg while you throw quarters. This one in particular, Heavy Fog, is pretty thematic actually, because you look through a glass while attacking the monster. So you have to look through the glass while you're throwing coins. But that's the first thing you do is flip over the room tile. And then we reveal the monster. And just like a lot of the characters, the monsters have their own special ability, but not always. Sometimes these level ones are pretty basic, but as you move and progress through the dungeon, the monsters become more and more powerful, as you would expect. Now, this one is the Spark Elemental, a level 1 creature. And the thing here is that its type, it really matters because that's where your bonuses for your character is going to come into play. In this case, we have a fire and it's magical. So if you affect that type of creature, you're going to do potentially bonus points in damage. But the thing you're doing is you're tossing coins. And that's really, it's all that simple. And you're going to attack the creature. In turn, everyone will bounce their quarters trying to land on the monster. And if you get the quarter halfway on, that still counts. But if you miss the tile, then the monster does damage to you. And just like the character sheets, all the monsters have a base level value that they get to attack with. Now, it's going to go this way round after round until the monster is defeated or all the players have been defeated. And if that happens, then you're going to start over in a new dungeon. And then whoever lands the killing blow on the monster will reveal the treasure tile. The first thing to note on these treasure tiles is over on the far right. There are different jewels that dictate their level of value, and that's what you're going to calculate into the game to see who has the most points in treasure. But there are real reasons to disperse treasure. So you might get something that you really can't use, so you want to give it to one of the party members so you can all make it through the dungeon. And it is advantageous to help out your fellow players, but not too much, because you do want to have the most points at the end of the game. But you do also want to survive and make it all the way through the dungeon. And these treasures really can add up and add all kinds of bonuses to what damage you can do to a creature. Because again, everybody starts with a level 2 damage that they can perform on any creature they hit. But these different items can really augment that and increase your character's ability. It's like getting experience, just giving them more and more power as you move through the dungeon. So that's really the game. As you move through this dungeon, you're trying to get to the end and defeat the final boss. And you hope everybody makes it out. But that's not always the case. And you'll definitely discover that as you play with the higher player counts, that this game becomes more and more interesting. And all the different rooms and all the possibilities of things they can force the players to do can be pretty zany at times. It is a party game at its core. And of course, after you make it through the dungeon, you'll total up all your different treasures, and whoever has the most valued treasure is going to win the game. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, at its core, this is the game of quarters. Everything you're doing, if you're dealing with curses, if you're dealing with traps, if you're dealing with monsters, you're bouncing quarters trying to land on those particular tiles or coasters in order to prevent all the bad things from happening. So it has that fun dexterity feel to it, and it does have that huge party game feel, keeping that kind of dungeon crawl lightheartedness to it, and all the possibilities of different things that you might have to do as you enter a room can be very party game driven, like standing on one leg as you toss quarters, things like that. Now, ultimately, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.